Welcome to KAWC's Educating Yuma. I'm Cisco Stargazer, Education Solutions Reporter. In this program, we provide you with special reports, taking a closer look at the schools, people, and issues shaping Yuma's future. Today's episode is a detailed debrief on the high school walkouts that took place all throughout Yuma County in early February. You'll hear from students.
I just hope people understand that it's not criminals and it's not bad people, it's families and it's little kids.
And community members.
Great, let your voice be heard. But walking out of school and marching along the side of the road carrying a sign, that's not effective.
All this and more on the latest Educating Yuma. For Educating Yuma, I'm Cisco Stargazer, Education Solutions Reporter. It was a day for the books, at least Yuma County's history books, that is. On February 3rd, roughly 1,000 high schoolers throughout Yuma County took to the streets in protest against U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. At Cibola, Gila Ridge, Kofa, Somerton, and Yuma high schools, students walked out during lunch carrying signs and flags. Vista High School also saw one student walk out. But why protest in Yuma? Well, it's worth noting that students at San Luis High School organized through Instagram to join a nationwide ICE Out protest on the prior Friday. According to San Luis Police, more than about 100 students walked out in peaceful protest. These protests take place in the wake of 2 high-profile deaths connected to ICE and the detainment of a 5-year-old in Minneapolis. Rumors have also been spreading online of reported ICE sightings in Yuma County, furthering concerns in the community. Whether San Luis's walkout sparked a local movement depends on who you ask, but reporter Alexandra Rangel and I followed the walkouts at Cibola and Yuma High to find out why the students were protesting.
At Cibola High School, home of the Raiders, named after the legendary 7 cities of gold, students say they believe the country should be welcoming to everyone, including immigrants.
Cibola Raiders don't raid. Raiders don't raid families. We're here because we want to make a difference, and just because we're in school doesn't mean we can't speak for our people.
Adelie Watson, a senior at Cibola High School, was among hundreds of students who walked out of school on Tuesday to protest against ICE. Social media posts had indicated that at least 150 students planned to participate, but as word spread, the number grew and their presence was felt across the west side of town, with students marching over 3 miles together to South Avenue B and then back to campus. Adelie was at the front of the crowd, proudly holding her sign with her face painted green, white, and red, the colors of the Mexican flag.
How is it to see your entire school pretty much taking a stand against this?
It's amazing. I feel like we're making a difference, or at least we're attempting to, because so many people have been deported, and I feel like we need to speak out and have our voices out there, because some people can't speak, some people, we don't know where they are, their stories haven't been told, and we just need to speak up as a school and as a community, honestly.
Does your family, your parents know what you're doing today?
Yes, they do, and they approve.
What did they tell you? Any advice they gave you?
Honestly, their parents, they came from just indigenous places as well, so they're supportive. They say that go with our hearts, respect the law. As long as we're protesting in peace, they support whatever I do.
Antonio, a senior at Cibola High School, was also among the crowd carrying a Mexican flag.
It's super important to represent who we are and where we come from.
Carrying flags other than the American flag at rallies has drawn criticism over the past year from people who disagree. When asked what the flag represented to him, Antonio said it was personal.
My mom, she's an immigrant, so that also is what made it super important to me. She recently became a citizen, but she worked hard, and that also is inspired me, definitely.
How long did it take her to become a citizen?
Since she was a kid, and she barely got it, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So that's been a long time.
How do you feel knowing that your mom finally has her citizenship? I'm sure it was somewhat of a worry for you at times.
Yeah, she had been profiled before. We used to live in Missouri, and it tended to be a little more racist over there. So even getting on base, people would be like, oh, where's your citizenship or like asking if she is a citizen and like all these questions that's really not necessary. But I think definitely once she became a citizen, there was more like ease and everything. And I know I was super happy because I was helping her like with the test questions and everything.
Although he walked out for what he believes in, Antonio said the decision was not an easy one.
I was a little nervous because I'm part of like a bunch of like the school clubs, so I was really scared about like getting in trouble. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to stand up for like the people that can't, you know. So I felt like, yeah, that was super important to me.
Over on 4th Avenue, easily more than 100 Yuma high schoolers could be seen headed towards 16th Street. As we walked beside them, they were rather keen on sharing their concerns. Alyssa, for example, told us that she and her peers had been talking about ICE for a while before the walkout.
Yes, I see it online, and like I feel like it is something that should be spoken about more in school and everywhere.
Do you ever worry about any of your classmates or relatives with what's going on?
Yes, sometimes. I don't want to specifically say who, but yes, I have people who I worry about, and during this tragic time, it scares me. It scares me because I don't know what's gonna happen.
Iram explained he finds it unfair that ICE has gone after immigrants who only come to earn their daily bread.
Estoy participando por toda la gente que viene aquí a este país a ganarse el pan de cada día. Y no es justo que el presidente o la política esté haciendo eso con la gente que no hace nada en este país, que solo viene a ganarse el pan del día. No es justo, y para que ya no esté el ICE y no estén haciendo eso por lo que están haciendo.
He too worries, he said, because many of these folks are his people and they speak the same language as him.
Pues sí me siento preocupado en una parte, pues porque es mi misma raza, hablamos el mismo idioma y todo.
And that's a sentiment he said many of his peers share, since plenty of Yuma students have Mexican heritage.
Sí, pues en toda la escuela y todo, porque la mayoría somos mexicanos, así como ahorita que somos un puño de plebes aquí. Sí. Igualmente todos hablamos de eso, y por lo mismo vinimos a hacer esta protesta aquí en Yuma.
The degree of students' awareness appeared to vary, but even the lesser informed have become concerned, like Joel.
Everyone was pretty aware. I wasn't really aware of it until like this weekend. I started seeing a lot of videos of like this little kid, he got deported and stuff. Yeah, 5 years old.
The kid in question is Liam Conejo Ramos, a 5-year-old in Minneapolis who was detained for nearly 2 weeks by ICE. His story has especially struck a chord with students. Now standing at the intersection of 4th and 16th Street, Taryn was dressed like Liam the day he was taken away.
I'm wearing a Spider-Man hoodie and a blue hat because I have a little sister and I can't imagine what happened to Liam happening to her, you know, and I get choked up thinking about it because it's just like, that's insane, you know, like he's 5 and he shouldn't have had to go through that. So I just hope people understand that it's not criminals and it's not bad people, it's families and it's little kids.
Taryn expressed that she and other teenagers are afraid they might be next, despite being citizens.
Imagine how it feels to be somebody that wasn't born in America or is a American citizen but wasn't born here, you know? And it's so hard to get citizenship status, and to have that ripped from you is insane to me. Like, I go to school with these people, they're my classmates, they're the people that I buy food from. Like, if we deport all of these people, who would run our country? You know what I mean?
During our conversation, Taryn revealed she was one of the students behind the Yuma High walkout account on Instagram. Social media played a big role in coordinating the walkouts, facilitating communication across the county. When we asked if San Luis was an inspiration, she wasn't so sure. Rather, these conversations were taking place before the San Luis walkout.
We just started talking about it at school, like mentioned casually, and then obviously I went on Instagram, you know, and we actually made an Instagram page called YHS Walkout. So there was like 75 followers on it, and it was posting all the information about when we were gonna walk out, where we're gonna go, what we're gonna do, and people were commenting and having conversations about it.
As for whether they expect change, students like Aliana told us they believe there's power in protest. Through their visibility, they ensure people won't forget their cause so easily.
I just think it matters because, you know, like a lot of people are indigenous and they're Mexican and Hispanic or whatever, you know, and I just think like they're all doing the right thing for their community. And I think that's a good thing. And I think, you know, like I think this protest will spread awareness just to see like how high school kids are actually like out here like showing their signs off and showing like, you know, their community.
The walkouts were mainly attended by students, But some community members joined in too. Alexis Rodriguez of Yuma County Indivisible, for example, shared that some of the kids reached out to them asking for support. And so Alexis showed up, tailing students alongside a school resource officer and reminding them to stay safe.
Well, I'm part of a local group called Yuma County Indivisible, and we host bi-weekly protests for an hour every Wednesday and Saturday. The students reached out to the adults for some solidarity in their walkouts. We have 3 different high schools doing walkouts today. Yuma High School is closer to my home, and I'm following at the back because I just want to make sure that the kids are safe. This is their protest. I'm here in solidarity, of course, because we do ours, and they're our future. I want to make sure that they're all right. That's why I'm walking in the back here, and I had the time to come help and support the cause. Of course, we also feel so strongly, but you can't fight hate with hate. So I'm trying to maybe not F-ice, but we can say, show me what democracy is, something. And they all have their hearts in the right places, so just want to protect the future.
At 4th and 16th, we also spotted a teacher who was checking out the scene during her lunch break. Due to concerns of potential retaliation, we're withholding the teacher's name, but she was willing to share her thoughts and insights. Among them was the fact that Yuma County has a lot of migrant students.
Yeah, so we have a lot of migrant students, and a lot of them are affected by this. Some of mine have been sent back and have to cross every day now. So they do share, and a lot of them are a bit enraged by their, friends and families just being taken out of nowhere. We don't know where they're at or stuff like that. Yeah.
Migrant students usually they have some kind of legal status. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So why would they be sent back?
Honestly, I'm not sure on that, but I know that some of their parents have and stuff. So
she also had a little insight into why students across so many schools decided to walk out on the same day.
So I think what was happening, from what I know, people started sharing that ICE is coming to Yuma, full force, it has been, because they've been here. I have a friend whose husband has been affected by this, and they had to move. But so I think that they wanted to do it, and then they saw San Luis do it, and then they were like, okay, let's do it. So I think it was a bit of both. As soon as San Luis went, they were like, all right, now we all have to go. And I heard students talking, I think it means more, we need to do it together, we all need to go at the same time, so it sends a bigger message kind of thing. They were saying all that, so I think that's cool.
How informed do you think your students generally are?
Some of them are, yeah, it varies for sure. I think some of them are, especially on this topic, because I think a lot of them know people who are or could be affected by this. But they could be a little bit more informed as far as, that's everybody everywhere. We kind of hear one side and then we're like, wait. So I try to teach them, do your research, look at, the middle ground kind of thing. So.
In the interest of hearing the other side, as the teacher referenced, we wanted to hear from community members who might have disagreed with what the students were trying to accomplish. Yuma County Republican Party Chairman Bill Reaganhart, for example, felt that their messaging wasn't effective.
I find it a little odd that a lot of the the public schools protested, but you didn't have any of the private schools. You didn't have Yuma Catholic students walking out of class and things like that. So for me, it says a lot about the messaging that's going on in our public schools these days. And I don't know how that is happening or what is being said, but to me, it's a little telling. Now, with that, I agree. I believe that students have a right to share their concerns and show their concerns and peacefully protest. I don't have a problem with that at all. So I'm just wondering how the messaging is going.
One concern he and Second Vice Chair Josh Pembleton shared was that the students wouldn't be facing repercussions for leaving school. We relayed that the Yuma Union High School District was treating the walkouts as unexcused absences, subject to school policies. The district had also notified families if their students were absent due to the walkouts.
You know, an unexcused absence to me is like when you just don't show up to school and you don't have a doctor's note. That's an unexcused absence. To physically be at school and to get up and walk out, that's there should be a whole different category for that.
Pembleton, who's also a parent, opined that the district's response was insufficient.
I spoke to my son about it, and he doesn't need to be named. He's underage, but he goes to Cibola, and he said that teachers were expressing First Amendment rights, and basically this is okay to do. Like, it's not okay to do. Your job is to be in school.
Aside from the matter of students missing school, Reaganhart added that walking out to protest was an ineffective method of causing change. But this wasn't simply a criticism. He offered some advice when asked what might be most effective.
The same way it would be for adults. You write letters to your congressman. You go to where your representatives are, whether that's city, state, federal. Go to where they appear. Ask those questions. Raise your hand. Create. If you want to have a team of people that go and do that, great. Let your voice be heard. But walking out of school and marching along the side of the road carrying a sign, that's not effective. Yeah, is it getting people talking? Obviously, because we're talking about it, but we're not talking about their issue. I don't even know what their issue is, other than Trump derangement syndrome, or anti-Trump, or anti-administration, or anti-ICE. If you say that, you're anti-law enforcement.
Pembleton had several concerns about the students' method of execution as well, which was echoed by one of our own listeners, Josie, who reached out to us. Josie had driven past one of the walkouts and was appalled by the profanity on some students' signs and their behavior. Since we couldn't be everywhere all at once, we followed up with Yuma Police and Somerton Police, who did have presence at each of the walkouts. Lieutenant Jose Garza of Somerton reported that there were no incidents.
We did observe kids generally behaved extremely well. They walked out right around noon, and they stayed on sidewalks. They had their posters, and were very respectful of the community's not interfering with traffic. Our main concern was the safety of theirs. Obviously, we understand that they have the right to express themselves, but we were concerned for their safety in regards to them walking onto the street. There's a lot of traffic on Main Street, particularly at that time, but they stayed on the sidewalks. Our only concern during the event was a couple of kids jumped onto some trucks, and they were too many kids on the beds of the trucks, and thankfully they weren't being reckless, driving extremely slow. We did have some concerned citizens call about some speeding from other kids in the general area, but the ones with the trucks, which was our main concern, they were doing fine.
In Yuma, however, there were two incidents. Sergeant Lori Franklin of YPD reported that an 18-year-old student had damaged a sign on a homeowner's property on 24th Street. And a 55-year-old man brandished a knife on students at 4th and 16th.
We had two incidents during that stood out and also got videotaped. So one of the instances was there was a student that got up on a wall and was taking letters off a sign. An SRO was following the students, came up, talked to them over the loudspeaker, got the student to come down. It technically is a criminal damage because the sign was on somebody's property, but at that moment, the SRO's main thing was the safety of the students. So he continued on following, making sure everything was okay, and then he wound up going back and making contact with the homeowner. He knew who the student was, so he made contact with the homeowner, and a report was written, and files will be sent to the city prosecutor, referenced that. And then we had another incident at 4th Avenue and 16th Street where a gentleman produced a knife, and that incident was taken care of right then and there. The guy was taken into custody. He was actually arrested and booked.
Overall, however, police reported that the students were well behaved.
We didn't have anything worse happen. We didn't have, they weren't blocking streets. Nobody was, they were doing their protest. I would say we're pretty happy with the way that things worked out, and that like I said, nobody got hurt. So
on the school side, we spoke with Eric Padden, Chief Communications Officer for the Yuma Union High School District. YUHSD accounts for 7 out of the county's 8 public high schools. Counting the one student who walked out of Vista, all of those schools saw walkouts on Friday and Tuesday. Padden explained a little more about how the district prepared for the walkouts.
We had a heads up that it could potentially happen. We heard multiple dates. We weren't sure if people would actually do it. At a certain point, it was all just kind of rumors. There was no direct dialogue with the school. These are not sanctioned or, school-sponsored events by any stretch of the imagination. We are actively encouraging students to stay in school, as far as, when asked. But at the same time, we had to have plans in place in case it did happen. So ultimately, behind the scenes, we would have those conversations with our administrators at our schools to make sure that we are handling the situations in a similar fashion or manner across the district. And then we also communicated with parents yesterday to give them a heads up. And that's something that we try to do anytime that we suspect something may be happening. We don't want to have to just be reactionary. We want to be able to communicate that stuff in advance. And if there were things that parents needed to talk to their students about their expectations, they would have an opportunity to do that in case they weren't aware of what was going on. So a lot of that is just kind of conversations and planning, and then also us informing parents about the rumors that we were hearing.
Patton also clarified how the district responded to the students.
There are consequences for, a certain number of absences or tardies or things like that. It would sort of be taken on a case-by-case basis. I don't want to speak for all of our schools and say that there's a blanket way in which absences for every single student would be handled, because there may be a student who has significant number of absences and has had consequences that this results in some kind of disciplinary action for leaving, and there could be somebody that's never missed school that it doesn't. So I don't want to speculate. I think all of that kind of gets taken on a case-by-case basis, but yes, long of a short was that students who left during the middle of class or after class period, in between periods, would be marked absent in the class that followed. And then schools were working to make sure that the absent reporting was accurate, and then reaching out to parents en masse to let them know that their student was absent at a certain period or periods the rest of the day.
The day closed out fine for the students who remained as well.
We really are struggling with people mixing the narrative that we are approving this, or we said, hey guys, follow me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. It's not about choosing a side or who's right or who's wrong. It's just about, being in the education business and making sure that we are doing what the law asks us to do in terms of not being advocates and making sure that we are doing our best to keep students in school.
After that day, business carried on as usual at Yuma County's high schools. But humans might be talking about these walkouts for a while. The last time students walked out en masse was in 2018 for gun violence. So this story is certainly one for the books. I'm Cisco Stargazer for Educating Yuma, and this reporting supported by a grant from the Arizona Local News Foundation. Educating Yuma is a production of KAWC Colorado River Public Media and supported by a grant from the Arizona Local News Foundation. Questions or comments are welcome. Send them to cisco.stargazer@kawc.org. Our theme music is used with permission and composed by Brian Teo, available at freepd.com. To access this show, just visit the Shows tab on kawc.org. You can also take KAWC with you wherever you go. Just download the KAWC Kofa app and the listening is in your hand. I'm Cisco Stargazer. This is KAWC's Educating Yuma. Thank you for listening.